James Lynch here for Spectation Sports, and happy to be joined by my co-host Duane Finley as we have some boxing action going down this Saturday, December 4th at the Horizon Event Center in Clive, Iowa. It is Extreme Maximus Boxing, the return to Des Moines. Duane, first, how are you, man? It's great to be doing a preview with you here.
Oh, man, I'll tell you, Lynch, I think the last time we did one of these bad boys, we were in the Mecca, Madison Square Garden, I believe, under a different banner. But, you know, the handsomeness doesn't change. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, we're still rolling strong. Like I kind of projected, you know, you and I, like a North American version of The Notebook. You know,
exactly.
It's never over, Lynch. And
I'm never over.
Back with you, and let's talk about Des Moines.
Yeah, let's talk about Des Moines. So I know you got to speak to a lot of the fighters here. We're going to get into that. I want to start with this Mitchell Lacante and Nathaniel Morrow fight right now on the odds that have been listed here. Lacante, big favorite here, minus 475. The comeback on Morrow, plus 325. Lacante coming to us from Cedar Rapids. What can you tell us about this fight? Really interesting matchup. And like you were telling me off air, just a firefight on paper.
Yeah, I mean, you have an interesting dynamic in several ways. For one, you know, Lacante is a boxer, you know, through and through. Morrow is a crossover. He's an MMA guy who steps over to boxing. Now, interesting is, you know, when you're doing these features and you're kind of digging in for what the heartbeat and the theme is, both of those gentlemen discuss the dance partner situation. Like, they both love an in-your-face brawl, and that's what they're looking forward to. There is some under the kind of side in the back alley heat between the two. They kept it respectful, but apparently Morrow, after winning his last fight, had made mention to the great Monty Cox, about you know, hey, I'm looking forward to beating Mitchell when I face him next. And Mitchell was respectful, but he's like, I heard it. And it's definitely in the back of his mind. So, yeah, you have two young guys who both are aggressive and love to get after it. And I think, you know, with Spectation making this a showcase fight, I think it's a wise decision. It's going to be a jump off.
Yeah, Lacante, a couple more little tidbits here. Three-time Iowa Golden Gloves champion. He's won all of his fights by knockout or technical knockout. We talked about a firefight, right? This guy does not like getting paid by the hour. He wants to finish the fight as soon as possible. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And Morrow, again, the underdog here. You mentioned the crossover experience. I think that's going to be valuable in this fight. Just two amateur bouts. However, you mentioned the pro MMA experience here. 5 fights in the, I think a total of 19 amateur fights in general. So that's been pretty awesome to see as far as what he's been able to bring to the table. Again, firefight, this is one you're not going to want to miss, right, Duane?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what I found really interesting about it is, you know, when you dig into the backgrounds and find out, you know, a lot of these guys, especially coming from Iowa, you know, there's a lot of these guys, even if they're boxing, they come from like a high school wrestling or like that kind of discipline situation, you know. And you know, talking to Lacante, it was awesome. He started talking about Arturo Gatti. And, you know, in my slimmer days, you know, with my squinty eyes and my puffy forehead, like, people are like, oh, man, you got a little Arturo Gatti look to you. And I'm like, all right, cool. But, you know, then nothing can't take away from the greatness of Thunder there. Rest in peace or in power. But I will say that's the kind of stuff, the kind of shit that I like as a writer, I'm jazzed about, and as a fan, because when you got these young guys who are like, yeah, you know, you know, talking about, you know, Arturo Gatti and, you know, kind of his hard charging ways. And you're thinking, man, if you can even just get a speck of that energy is going to be presented there. So if you're going in thinking like, you know, we're going to throw the sweet part or the science part out of it, we're just going to go in there and Julian Lang, let me bang, you know, let's get it cracking.
Yeah, absolutely. You talked to some other fighters on this card. Let's dig into some of those fights as well. Again, a lot of talent on this card and a good showcase, like it sort of advertises as for the future of boxing.
Oh, absolutely. I also, like I said, I spoke to main event Tristan James and some exciting stuff there. And let's see, I also spoke to Diego Zaniga, who's a up and comer. And I mean, you know, a lot of these guys do have extensive amateur records, but they're new in the pro waters. So yeah, Zaniga is a guy who I really think, you know, like we talked about Lacante and Morrow, but I think Diego is a guy you're going to want to keep an eye on after this. I mean, confidence, brash, but also grounded, that good Midwestern, you know, blue collar, not to be cliche, but grounded in what he's looking for. I think he used the term like, you know, flash and calmness, right? Like not arrogant, but he plans on going in and being, you know, any way this can go. He broke down 3 ways he expects this fight can go. He said, if it turns into a firefight, then that'll be, but you know, he said, hearing a younger guy talk about, I've been working on my legs, throughout this camp, so I'm coming in there sturdy and ready. And those are the things as a fight fan you don't really think about, like that kind of preparation, because the footwork is so important in boxing. And a guy who is known for high output, like Diego is, to know that he's been working on his counter game, that's pretty impressive.
Should mention this is a catchweight fight at 152. Diego with a 1-0 record, his opponent an 0-1 record. So be interesting to see if he can back up that trash talk, so to speak. And the heavyweight fight you mentioned there, Tristan James, he's 4-4-2, 220 pounds. This is a heavyweight fight taking on Anthony Williams, who's 5-14-1. So again, experience is on the side of Williams in that fight, although James with a better record there. Anything more you can kind of give in terms of insight into that fight?
Oh, absolutely. There's one fight that when we talked about doing this preview, there's one fight I was really looking forward to speaking about. It's this one. And Tristan James especially, because, like you just mentioned the records, and then Anthony Williams is just north of 40. So, you think about, I guess in, what do you say, wrestling terms, of like a jobber coming in for the work, right? Could not be further from the truth. So what you have in James is, when I spoke to him, he said, I'm the king of Iowa. And I'm like, okay, that was like the first thing. That's one of the first things he said. He considers himself the king of Iowa. He pressed hard for having to get a fight in Des Moines. He's been doing it for years. That's his hometown. Now, what he said that was particularly appealing to me or caught my ear was that he kind of, not to mention your Canadian brethren, but old Drizzy Drake in his forever verse saying everybody got a deal. I did it without one. Yeah, and that's what he said. He said, it took him 3 years to win the Golden Gloves state-wise. Took him 3 years to get bronze in a national Golden Gloves, and then took 4 years to get a promotional deal like he has now. So he's coming into this fight in this card as the feature main event. So it's put up or shut up, and it's do so in his hometown. So he talked about, and the article will be coming out tomorrow on Spectation, about the dealing with the balance of nerves, right? Like saying, okay, well, careful what you wish for. I want to show and prove. I want to put on. I want to represent my kingdom. My people that I put on for. But I also have to mentally balance the nerves of what it's going to take to compete in front of, like, when all eyes are on him, so to speak. So James is he's tall. He's 6'4", 6'5". He's a rangy southpaw, but he can also come in for that phone booth style and box it up. High output, high energy. If you look back, he had a fight on 522 against the gentleman was undefeated at the time. He was 6-0, and James flipped the script on him. Just put the power on him, put the output, wore him down, and put him away, I believe, in the 7th or 8th. So I think, with the Williams situation, I think, James said himself that he's not overlooking him in the slightest. This is a guy who does not go away. James, you and I being MMA veterans of that game, we know guys who are hard charging, kind of Chris Lieben style, right? Like, He'll go zombie mode. You're not putting him away till you do. So I think, James has to play careful, and we'll see if he can handle the nerves with all eyes on him like he wanted,
Yeah, it's going to be a great card coming up here this Saturday. Again, check out Spectation Sports. You can get odds on the fight. You can also watch the fight on there as well. A lot going on the site. We are the home of the future of combat sports, so really excited about that. Duane, thanks so much for doing this. We'll see you guys soon. Thank you so much for watching, and take care.